Yo, what is good, my anime people? What is good, yo? So we got ourselves a anime that I was looking forward to, but for some reason went under my radar somehow. When I was looking for it. But the Blade of the Immortal has dropped, and by God, was this a brutal anime, man? Holy crap. Um, to be fair, I kind of figured it would be brutal, but let's just say once it kicked off, it just didn't stop kicking. Like it just kept kicking and kicking. um, I was actually I was pretty happy with it. I didn't expect the story to be bad or anything like that. I don't know what I had going into this, right? Like, I just wanted to see what this show would be capable of. The warning at the beginning is a good indicator of how much, like, ridiculousness goes on with this show. Like, man, back in the day, a lot of things could be done. Like, a lot. And to think how censored stuff is now and uh, how much people put forward to make sure things don't, what's the word I'm looking for? Offend. They're trying to not offend people. They're trying not to overdo something that feels like it shouldn't be that much of it done. All that type of stuff is going into like considerations of shows and thought process of, plot and all these different things. So to see somebody being able to just mow through a whole bunch of people, which I do have one tiny gripe with this show. I mean, it's only because of the first two episodes I've seen, so I'm hoping it changes a little bit. But the one thing I did notice is throughout the show, like the storytelling, the conveying of like how the girls, went through and what she's still going through, all of that stuff was pretty good and well done. The only problem with it for me was the fact that once all that was said and done, we only get to we see these battles or we see this action scenes against these high ranking people, which it makes a lot of sense that our character, the mortal blade or killer of 100, isn't really capable of just showing up and slapping these guys because clearly if they've defiled dojos and they've gone to, big swordsmen or multiple shoguns and all this stuff and taken them out and they're not immortal, there you go already. Like they've taken out more than 100 people easily with their numbers or, with their powers in the case of what they've learned, what they put forward and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting way of telling the story of why certain people are so strong, and not only why they're so strong, but how them being this strong is important to the story. So I look forward to seeing what people are talking about for this because, like I said, this comes from an older time period of anime, like when this stuff was seen in every single show. Like you couldn't watch anime, I feel like back in the day, without seeing one of these shows just popping up and just being gory. um, but I feel like this show knows that it had a lot of that, and maybe it was excessive or something because a lot of the scenes take place almost like they're still being drawn. Like it goes to a white page, and then it looks like someone is drawing in the action scene that we're like seeing because it's like he's like all white. You still have all like the sketches and the outline. You guys know what I'm talking about. But with that being said, the thing that was like kind of getting on my nerves throughout the whole show and seeing it was because I'm talking about both episodes. So, episode one, we see one of the bad people that we want taken out for this girl that we're trying to revenge, get handled. But in episode two, we find another one. We find two, and the weird thing is, it always feels like the same thing was happening with the very, very powerful opponents. He would go fight them, try to win, and then while he's trying to fight and win, he loses, falls down, they turn their backs, they monologue, walk off, whatever, and then they get stabbed. Like that was the only way he's gotten two of the most like strongest people we've seen him go up against, and yet there's no one to really convey this information to, right? Like you can't just be like, I cut him up, beat him up. Like the first time he lost a leg in episode one, and he crawled over and got him. But this time around, he only really got he got stabbed in the he got stabbed a couple of times. Like he just kept getting stabbed up. Like first he got stabbed by a hidden blade, and then he then gets stabbed double time and sinks into like quicksand or something like that. So yeah, he went through it. But after all that is said and done, we then see this man come back and catch a person off guard and stab him. So that was my problem. Like every time he was in a pinch, he just had to wake up and stab. So I'm hoping that isn't the case all the time, which it makes sense that that might be his one go-to trove, but it feels like some of these guys should not be able to they shouldn't be able to keep up with him as vice not keep up with him, but they shouldn't drop their guard after fighting him. Like they shouldn't treat him as, oh, since I've done that much damage to you, I shall let my guard down. Like these are people who have gone against like masters of swordsmanship, and I understand why they're letting their guard down. It's because no normal human should be taking as much damage as they're putting out. Not only that, he's losing blood, he's losing limbs, so there's no real reason to feel like that person is a threat anymore. I get all that. But in a fight where as soon as you do that, you lose, that's one thing they've been taught for years, like never let your guard down regardless of, whatever the situation feels like. So to think that they just abandon that whole thought process goes to show you, like the thoughts or like the carelessness of how these guys are reacting in general. So I look forward to seeing what other people are thinking about this, like I said, because for me, this show is new. This is a new anime. This is something I've never seen before, so it's dope. Not to mention, I've been watching Fate, that new Fate Zero, the new Fate show that had Waver in it. The freaking Rail to Zeppelin or whatever case. That show has the same voice actor for this guy in this show. So my God, I was so happy to hear his voice. I was like, what? Really? Like, you sound this dope? Even in this show? My God. Best guy ever. So it was pretty cool to see that. I was pretty happy. And now that we know the Immortal Blade's out there, the first episode, getting to know this girl that looks like his sister and having that be the real reason why he's following and trying to make sure she actually fulfills her promise. Why can't I lock on, please? um, I definitely don't know where this is going to wind up at the end of the day, but I think that's why I enjoy it. And to think that some of the shows back in the past were very, very like highly, like requested of people to watch. Like, oh, you gotta watch this show if you like this because this started it all. There's a lot of people like that. And I think with these shows getting remakes and looking as clean as they are, kind of like Diorio, we get these moments now where we can share in this excitement that the old school fans that got to watch this stuff when it was new, um, they got to feel. And I love that stuff. So if you guys are someone that's reading it, or you enjoy the old stuff compared to this stuff, or you're liking both, please let me know in the comments down below, because that's one of the most coolest things I think is out there, is when it's like if Dragon Ball Z got remade and they then changed up some of the story, or they added some other different parts of the story that we never got. Eh, I mean, I'm not saying it's doing that in here, but there's a possibility, right? Because that's as we've seen already with an adaptation of remaking a show, they did that, and to my surprise, it worked out fine, and fans seemed to like it too that already had seen the show normally. So, with all that being said, I am your boy, the Anime G, and I will definitely talk to you very soon, probably, because I have a lot of stuff I need to make and a lot of time I have to make it. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. It means the world, and I hope I can drop more content that you can enjoy. And I am your boy, the Anime G. Have an amazing day, night, evening, whatever the case may be when you're watching this. Talk to you next time. Peace.